What did you and your girlfriend at the time argue with, or what was the reason why you guys were arguing? Was it like fundamental differences, or was it just like petty random things where maybe I don't know, you guys just weren't compatible, there was no chemistry?
But depending on how deep you want to go into relationship dynamics.
We would love to.
Sure.
We love talking about relationships.
Yeah.
I think there's like two primary methods of settling disputes that people have. One is a group of people that are very conflict avoidant. One is a group of people that are very like aggressive pursuer to resolve conflict. I'm very much like an avoidant kind of person, or like if we're like in a triggered, like things are bad, I just need like 12 hours to cool off and don't talk to me and let me just like go somewhere. And for whatever reason, every single person I've dated has been a very much like a pursuer kind of person. Like, we've got conflict, we need to resolve this right fucking now. So usually with her, the issue would be, we would fight over it would just be really dumb shit, and then I'd want to be left alone, and then she'd want to resolve it now, and then that would escalate and escalate and escalate until I would try to like leave the house, or we would end up like fighting with each other over something, basically. Yeah.
How do you solve that? Like, how do you make that dynamic work?
Well, now that I'm older, the dynamic probably would have involved better communication from me and her about our issues. Setting more realistic boundaries around resolving conflict.
Maybe if you explain that concept to her, that also would have been good.
No, that doesn't help.
You don't think, like, you say, I'm a conflict avoidant person, like I just need 12 hours and I'll be.
It doesn't matter.
That won't work?
It's like a conflict. It's like a pursuer person explaining to me, well, I need to resolve this right now. Like, so for instance, the current relationship I'm with my wife, she's very much like, if she's got conflict with me, she needs to resolve it right now. And I'm very much like an avoidant person. So one of us is like always losing when it comes to resolving conflict, right? Like, if we get into a fight over something, more often than not, it's because I've done something stupid. So she'll want to resolve the issue. And
can you bring up an actual example, or is that too intrusive?
No, I don't want to bring up an example. Okay. It's usually it'll usually just be like me. No, it's fine. It'll usually be like me hiding or lying about something. Just something really stupid that I shouldn't be doing. But like, what'll happen is or not always. Also, she fucks up too. Okay, don't. No, but like we'll have like an issue with something, and if we go to resolve the conflict, but one of two things could happen. Either one, it has to be resolved right now. Mm-hmm. So she's going to like lean into me and she'll be like, I need to resolve this. We need to talk about this, blah, blah, blah. And then that'll escalate to me being like, okay, blah, 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 until I get angry. And then I'm like, fuck you, you're stupid. Get out of here. Go back to Sweden. Blah, 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 blah. And then we'll fight like that. And it's just not good. And eventually maybe we'll resolve it and it's whatever. So that would be like, if she pushes too hard. If I get my way, then what'll happen is we'll have a conflict and then I'll get 12 hours to cool off. And at the end of the 12 hours, I'll be like, oh yeah, I was probably dumb. It's fine. But at the end of the 12 hours for her, she's thinking like the whole time, like he's going to break up with me, like it's over, like he hates me, like it's over, blah, 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 blah. So there's like, it's very hard to strike a balance there because it's either I get super triggered when we fight or she's like left like feeling like super panicky and triggered for like 12 hours while I'm like chilling out. So it's really, really hard for different people. Like obviously all you can do is communicate. We've got like little strategies that we try to employ. Like even if you hate somebody at the moment, like tell them you love them so that we're like still chill on things, like things like that to let us know where we're okay. But yeah, it's a lot of work to resolve that. But I don't think at like 20, I don't know if I would have been able to, or if my partner at the time would have been able to, because we're young and stupid. So.
Mm-hmm. And would you consider yourself a pretty emotional person?
Like compared to other people, probably not as much, but I mean, like, yeah, we're all emotional to some extent. Yeah. Mm.
Because it seems like if you're getting into an argument with someone, like it seems to me like you have a very rational, logical brain, that you'd be able to see that, hey, maybe if I say F you, this type of stuff, it's not going to lead towards the direction I want this conversation going.
Like the problem is that like ration and logic are like tools that can be emotionally aimed at like anything that you want. So like if I'm fighting with somebody, like I can be like very logical and rational, but it might be like in a really emotionally destructive way because I'm like emotionally dysregulated, right? Like if I get into a fight with a partner, like I might list like, well, here's like 7 good reasons why this relationship should end and you should get the fuck out of my face right now. And everyone will be like logically consistent and like logical, but like on an emotional level, like I'm being a fucking moron. And what I should be saying is like, let's like think of like a couple of ways we can like fix this problem. So a lot of people have this like dichotomy of like, you can either be logical or you can be emotional, but like I view things as kind of like a building block. Like foundationally, you've got like a very foundational, like emotional vibe, feeling, whatever's going on down here. And then your logic and reason comes, unfortunately, after that. Yeah. If you're emotionally this took me a long time. This took me like 30 years of my life to figure out because like I consider myself like a logic lord. So it took me a long time to figure this out, but you are incredibly a slave to your emotional state. And if you don't realize that, then you're fucking yourself up in so many different ways. But yeah.
I read somewhere that when you get in an argument, parts of your brain actually shut down that make it almost impossible for you to hear the other side or reason logically.
It might be. Yeah. I mean, depending on...
It takes time afterwards for your brain to like start functioning properly again after something like that.
Yeah, probably. Yeah. Depending, I mean, I know this like from arguing with people, depending on how you attack an argument, you can turn a person's ability to hear you completely off right away. Or you can do it in ways where you can get them to be really receptive to what you have to say. It just depends on how you approach it. Yeah. But it's a very challenging.
Have you learned what the strategies are and how to implement them or no?
Yeah, for sure. It just depends on the person. And it depends on, there's a lot of different things.
Are there any strategies that you could share?
It's usually pretty specific to like a particular debate, but like attacking, like there's so many things. There are so many different things. Jeez. So like, let's say that we're arguing about housing, right? And we want to argue about rent control versus like public housing versus like zoning new housing or whatever. If I'm really trying to pull somebody over to my side, there's a lot of things that I need to keep in mind. One, reminding the other person that we have like a common goal, like, hey, we want to like have as many people housed as possible, right? Like, let's not lose sight of that. Whoever's right or wrong in the conversation, we have a shared goal at least. That would be one thing. A second thing is like, don't ever attack the person, attack the problem. That's like relationship advice too, right? So never like, you're so stupid. Why do you think this? Blah, blah, blah. But more like showing empathy. Like, I understand why you might think this might be a good idea, but, have you considered this? Having grace when you're correct about things is very important. Never like, look at this study. It shows how completely fucking wrong you are. Like, what are you thinking?
God,
but more like.
Graham. That is 100% Graham. Yeah, you bring one thing up to Graham's like, well, I actually found 12 sources that.
I immediately
phrasing
go to my phone
things
and
that,
find sources.
Yeah, phrasing things that gives the other person like agency or empowers them is really good. Like, I understand why you think that, but you should check out like this study. Maybe it'll change your mind on something. Like, this is something that I just found recently, right? You're kind of like humbling yourself and giving them the opportunity to be like, oh, okay, yeah, maybe I would, right? So it almost feels like it's coming from them instead of like coming from you. There's like it super depends on the topic, but there's so many different like little strategies like this that you can employ. Providing people with a soft landing pad kind of goes with grace. If you change your mind on something, I'm not gonna like hold it over you or judge you for it. Like, it'll be like, oh, cool. Like, okay, yeah, you're right about this particular thing. And it's like, yeah, like I saw your point of view, I understand, but maybe I think this is a little bit better. Rather than like, okay, you're right. It's like, yeah, of course I'm right. You fucking moron. Like, you blah blah blah. There's really with relationships and debate, and probably with like business partners and employees and everything too. There's just like a lot of strategies like that to be like, you have to be very empathetic, very soft, very graceful, very humble, and you give the other person as much kind of like space to like grow and think and develop as possible without being too aggressive. Because the problem is there's a lot of like psychological trips in the brain. As soon as somebody perceives that they're being attacked, they're no longer having a conversation. Now they're defending themselves, right? Because if I come at you and I'm like, you have this position on like abortion or something, and it's so wrong and so fucking stupid, in your mind, you're not thinking like, okay, he disagrees with my position, let's hash it out. In your mind, you're like, he thinks I'm a fucking idiot. Well, I can't lose the debate on this topic, because if I am, I'm conceding that I am a fucking idiot. So now you're not fighting for the idea, you're fighting for your life at this point, okay? You can't be stupid, you're not dumb, you don't see yourself that way. So the debate becomes less about that particular position and more about you trying to salvage your integrity or maintain. Really
and trying to get them to figure it out for themselves rather than injecting your own ideology into that space that you're hopefully creating by showing grace.
Ideally, yeah. So be careful, because in some of my debates you can see me do this really well, and in other debates I'm not doing this well at all. It just depends on the interlocutor. But but these are things I try to keep in mind when having these conversations.